go. I'm burning up, hot flashes got me sweating like a sauna. Body feeling different, odor creeping like a drama. Clock hits 3, wide awake insomnia.
Hello, my lovely listeners, and welcome to What the Pause. Today we're diving into a topic that has confused and frustrated women for decades: hormone replacement therapy, or what many clinicians are now calling it, menopausal hormone therapy. So if you've ever Googled HRT, you probably walked away more confused than when you started. Some sources make it sound like a miracle, and other sources think HRT is terrifying. The truth, as usual, sits somewhere in the middle. So today we're going to discuss two things. First, the actual risks and benefits of HRT based on guidance from Canada, the United States, and the United Kingdom. They're very progressive when it comes to women's health and menopause health. In the second half of the episode, we're going to talk about something that doesn't get enough attention: access. What I just learned in the past 24 hours on Threads is that women in British Columbia, Manitoba, and Quebec received covered menopausal hormone therapy through public pharmacare, while many women across the rest of Canada are still paying out of pocket. And the question is, why? So let's get into it. I see a lot of women on Threads on Facebook, and they're saying, I'm starting HRT, I'm terrified, what's going on? What has your experience been like? Okay, well, when you go back to the 2000s, there was a large study called the Women's Health Initiative, which made global headlines. Those headlines suggested that HRT significantly increased the risk of breast cancer, stroke, and heart disease. However, the type they were prescribing was the estrogen and not the progesterone that you need to have both in order to get your treatment done properly, and that you're not getting as many risks to it. Okay, so much of the risk that made the headlines was seen in women who were older when they started hormone therapy, or were many years past menopause, or had other health risks already present. Today, though, that was in the 2000s. Today, menopause experts across Canada, the US, and the UK agree on something important. Hormone therapy is not a universal treatment, but for many women in early menopause with significant symptoms, the benefits can definitely outweigh the risks. That nuance, unfortunately, never made the headlines. So here we are, 25 years later, still trying to correct what was on the record 25 years ago. So let's talk about the real benefits of HRT. So as we know, there are 47 symptoms. And it's very important, ladies, especially if you're in your late 30s, early 40s, or approaching 40, very, very important to write down these symptoms, which are hot flashes, night sweats, sleep disruption, brain fog, mood instability, painful sex and urinary symptoms. There's a lot more than this, but for many women, these symptoms are life disrupting. HRT remains the most effective treatment, by the way, for hot flashes and night sweats. I know when I started it, I had about 3 days of the same. After HRT, 3 days later, excellent. It was so effective. I did not have one night of sweats, okay, or even the hot flashes. And I can actually function the next day with the progesterone because it helps me sleep. And talking about that, HRT can also improve sleep because it reduces those nighttime temperature swings. Another major benefit is bone health, because what happens after menopause, we lose our bone density faster because estrogen levels drop dramatically. HRT also helps slow down that bone loss and reduce the fracture risk. Now, why we're saying that? Because we need a proper quality of life. Because when women feel like their bodies have suddenly turned against them, I know mine did, when concentration and confidence disappears or starts to to slip, hormone therapy can help stabilize that transition. But, and this is important, HRT may not be right for everyone. So when I talk about my points in terms of my own experience, I will tell you this, that when I first started, before I started, let's just say, so I had to wait 2 years for my HRT. It was in COVID. Now, I'm born in 1971. Now, to my 1970s sisters who are out there, I'm sure that you may have realized in COVID, this may be the first time where it's like, whoa, I don't know what's going on with my body. Why is it happening overnight? And that's exactly what I felt. Overnight, I went to the mirror. I couldn't even recognize the lady reflecting back to me. And I still have days like that. And I also think about, why wasn't this information readily available to us when I turned 40? I'm 54 and I currently am still on HRT. You're going to have to pry it out of my dead hands, okay? I'm very, very worried about how HRT is maybe misconstrued by a lot of doctors, or doctors who have no idea how to even prescribe HRT. They will just defer it to the OBGYN, and the OBGYN doesn't have a lot of time for us menopause folks. So we go to the menopause specialists, right? Now, I'm a menopause coach, and even you can still get this HRT from your doctor. I know you may not have the greatest relationship with them, but if you're not getting what you need, and sorry if you hear my cat in the background, if you're not getting what you need from your doctor, change doctors. A lot of doctors are starting to now realize that, HRT is becoming a big business, and that's going to be another discussion. What I do not want the Canadian medical field is going to be, let's just revert to these virtual teledoctors who can just pay, the client will pay them. Okay, great. Here's my HRT. Now, I'm not feeling too good, so let's go to my doctor that I see virtually online that I pay for, and then let's get another prescription. Guess what? That's going to cost you more and more and more and more. We need to stop this business right now. It should not be happening in Ontario or in Canada, but it does exist because people complain there's not enough people out there. Well, I can't trust anybody online. That's just me, especially dealing with something that's very, very personal and very unique for every single woman going through this. All right. So I just want to say, for me, the benefits of HRT were stronger bones. I had a big fall 5 weeks ago in front of my house. I'm in southwestern Ontario, lots of ice, lots of snow. Slipped, and I fell on my coccyx bone, the tailbone. I thought for sure I was done. Done, because I really fell hard on those stairs. However, luckily, my doctor said that I only suffered a slight fracture, and I'm finally feeling a lot better, as I have been really, really taking the self-care to get this resolved. However, if I had not taken the HRT, I think my bone density would be at risk, and I thought I probably would have broken my tailbone, to be perfectly honest with you. So this is really, really important that we understand the benefits. So hot flashes went away from me. Night sweats went away from me. Mood swings, we all have our good and bad days. Some have more anxiety than others. And I take medication for both my anxiety and my depression because the HRT is not enough for me. But it still helps me with 90% of my symptoms. Okay. That's the benefits side. You've heard my experience. Now let's talk about understanding the risks. So when I talk about one of the biggest mistakes in the HRT conversation is that we often talk about risk without explaining what that actually means. So let's break down a few points here. First, if a woman still has a uterus, she usually cannot take estrogen alone. Actually, I do not just say take estrogen alone. The progesterone will help balance that out. Estrogen can stimulate the lining of the uterus, which could increase the risk of uterine cancer, which is why we add the progesterone for protection. Estrogen, progesterone, the two are your favorite friends. Now, second, there's a small increased risk of blood clots and stroke, particularly with oral hormone therapy. This risk increases with age and, of course, certain medical conditions. However, non-oral options like patches, gels, and sprays may actually carry a lower risk. All right? And that's the one that people tend to be fear of, is the fact that they may not know what all the risks are. Combined estrogen and progesterone therapy does appear to slightly increase breast cancer with long duration of use. But the key word here is slightly. The level of risk really varies based on the individual. Okay, like I said, not every woman is the same. It's also based on the type of hormone used, bioidentical or synthetic, and how long the therapy continues. Like I said, they're not prying my bioidenticals from me until I die. For estrogen-only therapy, which is used in women who've had a hysterectomy, okay, the risk profile is different. So what menopause specialists emphasize today is something called individual care. We're not cookie cutters because your age matters, your health history matters, and your family health history matters. Finally, the timing of when you start the therapy also matters, and the delivery method. So, which means the real question isn't, is HRT good or bad? The real question, is it appropriate for this person at this time under medical guidance? So what's the bottom line on HRT? There's an honest takeaway. Hormone therapy is not a miracle treatment. Okay, it's not 100% foolproof, but it's also not the dangerous villain doctors made it out to be 25 years ago. For many healthy women under 60 or within 10 years of menopause, hormone therapy can be a very safe and effective way to manage symptoms when monitored properly. What matters most is informed decision making. You will need to speak to your doctor. If you're not liking what you hear from your doctor, you get another opinion. If you don't like that other opinion, then go to see somebody, a friend, a menopause coach. You can come to me on What the Pause. But I'm not here to sell you my services. I'm here to tell you that many people are afraid, and I just want the stigma of HRT being bad to go away. This is why we need to be educated and more informed, because there's not a lot happening out there for us in terms of even accessing HRT. So, which goes into my second segment. As I said, I've been very active on Threads, and a lot of these comments and questions have come from the audience. And I want to thank you, especially to my new followers in the past 24 hours. Wow, this has been such a great topic to actually bring up, because there's just so much skepticism, stigma, confusion. What is right, what is wrong, but what is fair? Because having access for every woman in Canada, in the US, they're already doing it in the UK. We need to make sure that HRT is accessible for everybody. And I'm going to place one more thing. Not only available for everybody, but also free. Yeah, what? Free? Isn't gratis? What? All right. So making sure that we talk about this, because in my research, I found that, wow, so BC's had this. It started actually this March. Manitoba just started as well. Quebec apparently has bought into so those women or those people out there on Threads who said, it's a provincial program. Duh. Yeah, I know. It's a provincial program. This I understand. However, what you may not understand is the fact that it is provincial, but it's your premier that needs to buy into this. So, I don't want to get into, terrible premiers or what have you in Canada. So, to those who don't want to listen because you're from the United States or UK or what have you, no need to stick around unless you really want to, because this is quite interesting. Because I had no clue about this Canadian pharma plan. Okay? There's a Canadian Pharmacare plan. That is a federal program. And on Ontarians, Albertans, those who really need it, and basically everybody in Canada who's a woman going through this, why are we on this? And why are we not getting our HRT for free? So let's break this down, okay? So something interesting, like I said, has happened in Canada, and British Columbia has started implementing this National Pharmacare Agreement with the federal government. And as part of that program, HRT is now covered under the province's public pharmacare plan. What does that mean? Many women in BC can access these medications without paying out of pocket. Menopause affects half the population. It affects workplace productivity, sleep, mental health, long-term health outcomes. And one province has now said this. This is real healthcare. That decision is incredibly important because it sends a message that menopause care deserves to be treated as a legitimate medical care, not something women should quietly absorb as a personal expense. Because God forbid, if men were going through menopause and HRT, they'll have that available from day one, not waiting until 2026 or 2020. In 2020, when I found out about the combination estrogen and progesterone, that would work for me. Canada's pharmacare rollout is still early in its early stages. However, the framework for national pharmacare also depends on agreements with individual provinces and territories. So far, a handful of jurisdictions have signed these agreements, including British Columbia, Manitoba, Prince Edward Island, and Yukon Territory. And I know a couple of people told me Quebec is there too. So each province negotiates what medications are covered and how quickly the system is implemented, which means the experience of menopause care in Canada currently depends heavily on where you live, not because you're a woman of a certain age. How can a postal code determine the accessible treatment that you get? Because for many of us outside of these provinces, these are out-of-pocket costs. And we need to start the conversation because there's lots that we can do. Not only women, but also men, medical providers. We have to be loud because change rarely happens quietly. And this healthcare policy moves when people start asking questions. So if menopause care matters to you, there are a few things that you can do. Talk to your provincial representative. Ask whether your provincial plans include this coverage under pharmacare, the federal agreement. Share your experience, cost barriers, long waits, difficulty accessing even your own providers who are so unknowledgeable, and provide those important data points. And keep having these discussions publicly. I'm never going to shut up about menopause. It's affecting my sisters in the millions. But for a long time, it remained invisible in policy discussions because women were expected to just manage it privately. And that silence is starting to change. And it's starting to change very carefully. However, we need to be more loud about it. Hormone therapy is only one piece of the menopause conversation, but it is an important one because women deserve accurate information about the risks and benefits so they can make decisions with their healthcare providers based on evidence, not outdated headlines and not outdated medical books. We deserve these treatments without financial barriers in the way. Because menopause is not a niche issue, it's not cosmetic, and it's definitely not freaking something that we choose to go through. It's not optional, okay? So if British Columbia and all the others I said can begin addressing that reality, there's no reason for the rest of Canada not follow. So what do? I'm going to provide to you with a form that is going to be in the comment section of my YouTube channel if you are looking at this on YouTube, or if you're listening to it on anywhere you stream your podcasts. Please have a look at my YouTube channel where the form will be there. And this is for everybody in Canada. Okay? So if you would like, I will send the correspondence on your behalf. I will also give very distinct instructions, and the data that you supply to me will not be sold, will not be given to any third party. This is specifically to get into the mailboxes of your premiers to get you the access for free that you need. Why? Here's my story that I plan on telling my idiot Premier Ford. Yes, I'm saying it because you all didn't show up for the last election. 19% of you showed up to vote that clown back in. Well, it's time for him to get out. And we do it by screaming loud. Every single woman. Your daughters, think about this in the future. Men, your wives, your moms, your aunts, think about it. You want them to ignore it? No, it doesn't work like that anymore. We are allowed to complain. We are allowed to scream as freaking loud as we want for what we not only need, but deserve to get for free. I have been given a laid-off notice from the institution where I was teaching as a professor. Now, when my layoff notice is done and I go into employment insurance, you think that's enough for me to open my pocketbook and buy my HRT when it was covered for me for 8 years previously through my benefits plan? No way. You know what, you premiers in Alberta, you suck too. Your premier is just as a fascist as Trump and a fascist like Ford. Sorry for my anger. No, you know what? Not sorry for my anger. You want it, you ask for it. And I am determined to get every single woman going through this to get her HRT for free. Because I certainly don't want to pay $300 every 3 months. All right? For my estrogen and my progesterone. I was only paying $30. Huge difference. Now that we don't have our benefits, and by the way, guys, a lot of women my age group, even those at 40, you don't think that you're going to be coming near perimenopause soon and need the HRT? To my older millennials, sisters, please open up the mouth, get to my website, get to my YouTube channel, and start filling out the form. Like I said, the more we hear from the women out there, the more things will get done. Because I'm pushing for it, guys, and I'm just one person. I may not have a medical degree, but I am a woman going through it. And I also am a professor, a certified holistic perimenopause and menopause coach on HRT. I also have 30 years of fitness instruction experience. I know the anatomy, kinesiology, what helps in terms of a woman not only going through HRT, but also pairing it with great nutrition, protein, and workouts. But some of us don't want to do that. the HRT for me has changed my life forever. And I know it has for a lot of my friends and for you out there watching or listening. So, like I said, please, please, please jump on my YouTube channel under What the Pause. I will also put a link in my bio on Threads. And I will also put this in my website under whatthepause.co. I want to thank you all for listening to this very, very important podcast. Because I know this conversation resonated with a lot of you out there. So please share this. Share the link. I'm going to be opening this up for a few weeks, gathering everything and sending as many forms I can to those premiers. I'm going to go to all the Canadian premiers. And then finally, I'll be going to Mark Carney, our wonderful Prime Minister. You may laugh at me, but the joke will be on those who didn't believe I can do it. So, I am so thrilled to have shared this with you because the more we talk about menopause openly, the harder it becomes for society and for systems to ignore it. And with that, I will conclude with my mantra: be well, be healthy, and embrace the pause.
Yo, I'm burning up, hot flashes got me sweating like a sauna, body feeling different, odor creeping like a drama, clock hits 3, wide awake, insomnia got me stressed, mirror shows dry skin, used to glow, now it's a mess, achy joints, back stiff, tailbone hurts too, trying to stay fly, but the fupa making moves, 1 minute I'm chill, next I'm seeing red, these mood swings got me tripping, messing with my head, I go through all these symptoms, do you go through it too? Is it just me or you riding this wave too? We get